The days of easy money are over. We are coming into the times of the great divide. It's going to be the great separation. You're going to have the coaches and business owners who are going to absolutely crush, scale, and dominate faster than ever before. And then in 2026 and 2027, we are going to have the coaches and business owners who are going to go extinct exactly like the dinosaurs. In today's video, I'm going to break down a conversation I had with Daniel Priestley. He's one of the world's leading AI and marketing experts. We had a thorough conversation in terms of what AI would look like in 2025, 2026, and 2027. So we're going to recap and look specifically at that and have the predictions being correct. And most importantly, what do you actually need to take and implement to make sure that next year and the year afterwards, you are in the coaches and business owners that actually are successful and then don't go extinct. The first part of this video we're going to look at is Daniel's prediction in terms of AI in 2025 being garbage and exactly what that's going to look like in the coming years of 2026 and 2027. Why do you think it's going to be a problem coming 2026, 2027 and not 2025?
There's really going to be a divide between the people who got onto AI and used AI and get comfortable with how AI fits into their business, and those who didn't.
From experience, I tried to push the thinking more people was a better solution, and I realized that we actually want less people but better people.
TikTok is like crack cocaine for the brain. It's you are just ramming dopamine down.
A lot of people who are listening to this who are not in the digital world, would you say it's too late for them to jump into that? Today we have an awesome guest who's with us, Daniel Priestley. Daniel has a huge plethora of experience in the business world, massive in terms of from a marketing perspective, runs 8 companies, he's an author, and has a complete wisdom of knowledge. He's going to run us through in terms of marketing, AI, and the latest updates running into 2025. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today in Dubai.
It's awesome. So good to be here.
First thing I want to ask you is, coming into 2025, how important of a role do you think AI is going to play in terms of marketing and in terms of marketing going forwards generally?
Okay, so the AI thing is, big picture, AI is a game changer. There's no question. It's like electricity or smartphones, any of those technologies that were massive movements or have been massive movements, social media, for example. But if you think about, say, social media, there's a couple of years there where it just doesn't feel like it's super important, but then there's a tipping point where it's like, if you're not doing it, you know, you're really behind the game. So I think we're still kind of in that zone of it's an important tool, it's a useful tool, you should be using it, but you're not going to get crushed in 2025 for not using it. But 2026, 2027, there's really going to be a divide between the people who got onto AI and used AI and get comfortable with how AI fits into their business, and those who didn't. So we've all got to find a balance. Most people are not finding a good balance at the moment. So for example, I get just every time I post on LinkedIn, I get all these automated AI responses that I can just immediately see their AI generated responses. You know, I see people posting AI generated content and you can just glance at it and you know it's AI generated content. It's not in their voice. So to me, you know, they're trying to use AI and good, you know, I'm glad they are, but they haven't found the right balance with it. And that's kind of where we are right now. Everyone's just figuring out, where does this fit into my business? How do I use it? And that's a good place to be for 2025. That's where you should be benchmarking yourself. You should say, am I just getting myself comfortable with it?
Why do you think it's going to be a problem coming 2026, 2027 and not 2025?
Because right now, this is the worst it's going to be in the rest of our lives. So as bad as it is, all of its flaws right now, this is the worst it will be. And in a year from now, it's going to be twice as good. 2 years from now, it's going to be twice as good as that. So it's doubling every year in how good it is. Things just take time. Things take time. So we think about smartphones as taking over our lives, you know, in the 2010s, but they were launched in 2007 in a big way. We think about internet, you know, kind of being a 2000s and 2010 kind of phenomenon, but it was actually like in the 90s. So there is just an adoption time. There's a momentum that society has built in where things just continue to work longer than they should. You know, even into the 2000s, I was picking up clients using fax broadcasting. Fax broadcasting was a thing. And it kind of worked right through till 2005, 2006. You could fax someone. You could fax them a thing. You could send out physical brochures. You could go to physical meetups and events. So there are things that continue to work longer than they should. They've hit maturity and they just don't disappear overnight. And then there are things that kind of hit that S curve, which is where AI is now, and they creep up on you. And it's very, very hard to catch up once it really tips and it's away.
Do you think AI can replace marketers entirely?
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have, previously you would have had an agency with 30 or 40 talented people and then maybe 40 or 50 support people. And now you've got an agency of 80 or 90 people headcount. AI is going to make 10 really talented people essentially as effective as that 80 or 90 person agency. So it's not so much that AI is roaming around doing stuff on its own. It's just super leveraging those people who are very good at what they do. So a very talented person, you mentioned before I've got 8 different companies. How do I have 8 companies? Because I leverage a lot of tech. Because I've got the right software, because I've got playbooks and I've got media and content and all of that sort of stuff, I'm leveraging technology in a way that's fairly modern, fairly new, and it's pretty easy for me to have, 8 companies. Each company's got 30 to 60 people, and we just kind of we just execute the playbook and away we go. So without that tech, I couldn't do it. With the tech, I can do it. It's going to be the same with AI. So I don't think AI is going to steal anyone's job. I think someone who's very good at using AI will steal a lot of people's jobs.
So the most powerful thing I would say from that, I would take it from the end, is that AI is not stealing your job, it's someone using AI who's going to steal your job and take your clients. Because in essence, this is what is going to happen, and it's already started, and it's only going to accelerate in 2026 and 2027. So there's a couple of things I'd unpack that Daniel said. So firstly is the doubling in terms of like the progression in AI year on year. So when this video was filmed, since then, that was end of November, maybe December 2024, the progression in AI since then is absolutely frightening. The rate in terms of things you can do, we just cut up a podcast yesterday in like a minute that would have maybe taken someone 4 hours using AI, and it's better than a person doing it. And this is an example in terms of how in a couple of different aspects, you can cut the headcount down in your team, but actually also improve the quality of what you're doing. But this is just you understanding and implementing and actually being front-facing to what's going on and accepting the reality, because the AI kind of revolution is happening whether you like it or not. The second thing he actually mentioned was a slow adoption time, which I would kind of actually argue against, because he used the case studies in terms of like the internet and then also in regards to mobile phones. Now, I know ChatGPT at one point was onboarding, I think, 1.5 million to 1 million users per hour, which is insane. This is like the fastest adoption of anything in kind of human history. So this is literally going off faster and faster and faster. And even an example for me is I remember I spoke to my parents and they started using ChatGPT for everything. It's like, my parents don't know how to use technology. Like my dad doesn't know how to use anything. Like his phone, I don't think he even has a phone with apps on it, but he was using ChatGPT on his computer. So this is an example in terms of how quickly these things are kind of being implemented and executed. And then the biggest growth lever you have as a business owner is going to be twofold. So he spoke about you can have a marketing team of 10 replace a marketing team of 80 to 90. So your goal as a business owner is to do these 2 things. One is to understand firstly AI and how can you use that in the business. Secondly, is actually still hiring people, but hiring these 10 people, the best people, who are actually going to be able to utilize and weaponize these things as effectively as possible. Because when you do that, you put very smart people with amazing technology, you get amazing results. If you put very average people with great technology, you still get average kind of results. And this is why, from a marketing perspective, AI is amazing, for example, writing hooks and content or whatever, but someone has to have the experience and the knowledge and the intuition to know which hook will perform best. AI can't do that yet, and it can't fully tell you that. I'll give you one hack that I'm going to give you in this video now, which will help a lot though. Whenever you prompt anything in AI, always ask it to give a rating out of 10. It will come back and say it's something like an 8 out of 10. And then what I would do is I'd ask it, please make this a 10 out of 10 Instagram caption, LinkedIn post, whatever it might be, and it will improve and create a better iteration of it. So that's one hack I would definitely implement. Next segment we're going to go into is Dan explaining why AI will kill 90% of marketing, but why long form content will explode. And this is something I've been hammering home to people, that if you want to scale your business, there are 3 things you need to focus on. 1 is AI, 2 is long form content, and 3 is paid ads, and they're probably about to see why. So then if you take the principles of AI and then say becoming a person of influence in social media, how do you see that quote unquote market changing in terms of maybe using AI to manipulate that world, and even the point we're getting to with like fake creators who aren't even a real person?
I think that something interesting just happened a week ago, which was there was a turning point in the presidential campaign. Now, right now, when we're recording this, we don't know who's won, right? US presidential election.
Hopefully Trump, in my opinion.
Right? Yeah, right? So we don't know who's won. It could go either way. We've seen the campaign. So we're recording this the day before the election. But there was a real turning point. Actually, it was on both sides. Kamala did a podcast, Call Her Daddy, and Trump and Vance did Joe Rogan. 3-hour podcasts, 2-hour podcasts. Why is that so important that they did that? Because people really crave the authenticity. They want to know, what are you like when you're unfiltered? We sit there and we say, okay, I really don't care about sound bites anymore because I know that they can be manipulated. I don't care about those well-edited clips. I know those can be manipulated. I don't care about highly produced will.i.am songs because that can be manipulated. I don't care about speeches from the stadium, from the podium, because that can be scripted by someone else and manipulated. What I care about is seeing you sitting down with a podcaster and having a 2 or 3 hour conversation where we just talk about life and liberty and happiness and, you know, all of those sorts of things. And it's very, very hard to fake or filter that. Now, why has that become such an important media? It's because of AI. So because we can create fake stuff, people are now gravitating towards real stuff. There are very few formats that are possible to fake. That are impossible to fake. And the long podcast is now an impossible to fake one. I think the long form podcast is going to become one of the most important formats in the next 5 years. And I think what you'll see is almost every CEO of every major company prioritizing being on a long form podcast.
And is that from a personal branding point of view from their own perspective, or also to try and get across their company's message to maybe shareholders to listen to and even employees?
Yeah, well, employees definitely. I think there's a certain age of employee that has to have that connection to the founder or to the CEO, and it has to be authentic. It has to be like, I've seen them on a podcast. I know that they're a good fit. There's good chemistry there. I think it's the personal brand. We've now entered an era where personal brand, especially of the leader, was like a weird thing. First, it was weird to have. Like a few weird people had it, like Steve Jobs.
So that's the first thing I thought of,
yeah. And then like, okay, a few people are doing it. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, probably still in the weird camp. But then it's like, okay, now I'm seeing Tim Cook on a stage. Okay, it's transferable. I'm seeing some other CEOs going out there and having conversations and being unfiltered. Jamie Dimon especially is now often on podcasts and often on, long form content. So we're starting to see those sorts of things. And it's the moment that there's always a tipping point where things go from being weird to being acceptable to being essential. So we saw this with Franklin Roosevelt. He did the fireside chat with his presidential campaign in the 30s, and that was all about being on radio. And up until that point, presidents had never been on radio. It was all print. So the only way you knew about a presidential campaign was what was written in the newspaper. Then he just does a fireside chat, completely revolutionary, and then all presidential candidates went on radio. And then 1960, Nixon versus JFK, and it was a televised debate, and it was about having television and seeing what they look like and seeing how they perform on that thing. And then fast forward to Obama 2008, it was about interaction on social media and having a social media presence, and that was completely unheard of up until that point, and then it became normalized. And then the big one in 2016 was about personalization and using data. Trump and Brexit were both data-driven campaigns. So then data became the biggest thing from 2016 till now. And then this campaign, the big emerging trend that has come off of the back of this one is the long-form 2 to 3 hour podcast.
It's interesting for two reasons. One, I listened to Joe Rogan podcast the other day. I was listening to the Elon Musk Joe Rogan one on the way
this
here.
Morning?
Actually. Yeah, I was listening on the way here. And when I was listening to the Joe Rogan Donald Trump one, I was like, this is fucking gold.
Yeah.
Like, if you want Trump to do well, and you see how many views and how much watch time it has. What I think is also wild is how people can see how these platforms are being manipulated. So, for example, I clocked on it straight away. I think the day after the Donald Trump Joe Rogan podcast came up, I searched on YouTube to watch it. It's like clip. It's not there. The one that's got like 40 million views, that's 3 hours long. I had to go onto his channel to go and find it because Google had like hidden it. So it wasn't showing up.
Wild, isn't it?
This is one of the biggest companies in the world. And this is where you suddenly realize the game is rigged in a lot of degrees and how much manipulation is happening, which is why I think the beauty of podcasts and the open forum for talk is beautiful, because it's something that is very rare now.
It also does this thing to our brains. So there's this professor, Robin Dunbar, and he has studied how people bond and how they form deeper relationships. And he uses this idea that you start off as a stranger, you then enter a different circle of an acquaintance, you then enter a different circle of being a friend, a close friend, a best friend, like family. So you end up going through these circles, these concentric circles that our brain has different storage points for. And essentially, the person who is a friend or an acquaintance has clocked up 7 hours with you in the last 90 days, something like that. And if you've clocked up 7 hours with someone, especially if they've been sort of like conversational and positive, then you know their name, you know their face, you know what they're about. Now, the long-form podcast is essentially like when someone's listening to a Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, they're actually becoming friends with Joe Rogan and Donald Trump. So as far as the human brain knows, it's like, oh, these are my new friends. I'm actually adopting them into a new circle of influence for me. Now, that only happens, according to the research, through a process of spending time together. You can't do it through short form. You can't do it through ads. It's different. So like quick little ads don't do it. Little social media posts don't do it. It's long form content that makes you deeply connected to someone.
So breaking down in terms of what Daniel said there, I said before, this one of the most important things is long form content, and he kind of broke down and gave a big example of why. So firstly, it's obviously the 7 hour rule. So know, like, and trust is a huge thing, and people seeing your viral Instagram reels or your short form content and your paid ads is not necessarily going to happen. And he gave a good case study in terms of how, after watching this, Donald Trump won the US election. Drop in the comments below if you think that was good or bad. No comment. The reality is of one of the reasons why is because he went on a lot of big podcasts and got so much exposure from it. So long form content is going to drive and have more requirement because of AI, due to people wanting authenticity, because so much is being faked online right now. A lot of creators are actually completely fake online. And something actually that YouTube has brought out is they are demonetizing anyone who puts AI videos out. So they want people to make authentic content, and YouTube to be the hub for that, which means that this is going to become even more powerful as a platform to kind of grow on and to focus on. So this is huge. And the second thing with that is also the power of a personal brand, of how this is going to become more and more important over the time, because people want to buy from people, and people are still going to want to have conversations with real people, regardless in terms of from AI. He also said something that I thought was very interesting, and it threw me back, was how things go from weird to essential. So he gave an example in terms of from a personal brand. Now, when I first started posting content online in 2018, in the bodybuilding community, in bodybuilding gyms I was training in, like I used to get a lot of flack for it. Now, that has become essential in that community, is that you make content, you post on YouTube, like that's how the whole merry-go-round works. And this is the exact same thing in terms from a personal brand perspective and using AI. This is going to be essential. And this is where I see so many comparisons right now in my own head between like 2016 to 2018 when social media started getting momentum to what 2025, 2026 and 2027 is going to be. This is more important than ever. And one of the things that Daniel didn't touch upon, which is one of the big things that we're building in our own business and helping our clients, is this, second brain. Now, this is where you upload all of your information, all your data constantly, so it knows everything about you, so it can give you the right precise information, the right precise answers, and help you create the actual things and the actual advice you need. And this is going to be the people who are going to crush in 2026 and their businesses are going to explode. And the people who don't build these second brains in the businesses and don't use them personally are going to be the people who fall behind. And this is where it's going to be the great divide in terms of businesses that success and scale and the ones that stagnate and basically fall behind. And ultimately, it's just down to you to draw a line in the sand and decide, okay, are you going to be on the winning team or are you going to be on the losing team? Ultimately, that's your choice. And you cannot fight this because it's happening regardless. This is just natural evolution of mankind and technology. And I know what I'd rather be on, is the winning side. And this is what we're helping in our own business and helping our clients do, is to implement these tools, but also to learn the skills and be the right person to be able to implement them. Because there's one big thing about, people talk about being in the right place at the right time. You also have to be the right person. And that comes down to you having the right open-mindedness, the right skill set to be able to apply into these things. And these are the exact frameworks in terms of what we're doing with the second brain to grow our own business. We built something called Charlie AI in our own system for our clients actually to interact with, which is 4,000 hours of, I think, me on calls and content we've made that can actually coach clients as well as me. And this is a great example. So your choice is yours now. Do you want to scale and use this technology, or do you want to fall behind? Drop in the comments below your biggest question regards around AI. And if you want help in terms of implementing these things into your business, there's a link below where you can book in a call with us to find out how we can help. Check out the next video on the screen right now and hit subscribe.